Hello and welcome to the Why Did You Write That podcast. I am your host, Allison, and with me today is Doughboy, Godcat, and Telemnar. Oh man, I didn't do your intros. Okay, so with me is folklorist, Doughboy, writer, Godcat, and the magnificent Telemnar. We need a different epithet, I think. And today we are going to be looking at woke media and its failures in developing characters that anybody cares about. And that's not to say we hate the characters, because hatred is an emotion. We just don't care. We don't care at all. All right, so hopefully this will be very edifying, and maybe if you are yourself a writer, you can take some hints from all of this. And I'm going to just double check with the chat that everything is going okay, that you guys can hear us, that you can see us, that there are no shenanigans of a technical nature. I don't see anybody saying anything yet, so let me double check here. Looks like we're good. Started late because OBS's vertical plugin is changed. All right, so sound seems okay. We don't know about the additional panelists, how they'll do, but hopefully everything is good. It's always a bit of an adventure here starting up. All right, so we're going in the West. It's been interesting to watch these individuals who just come at it from a general interest in media or particular fandoms, slowly, collectively coming to the point of realizing everything is crap and starting to suspect why that might be so. So there's a convergence happening. A convergence. And that's good. That's really good. So we're going to take a look at what he has to say. And not only is he going to be critiquing the recent Wheel of Time adaptation, which we have been watching so as to give everything a fair shake. And we may have some commentary on that. He's going to cover Stranger Things, although we may skip that part. If you're interested in that part, just go directly to his videos. They're linked below. And he's going to take a look at Finn from Star Wars. And we're going to look at all of these characters, and we're going to see why they fail and see if we can fix them, or see how he fixes them, and we'll take a look at that and see if we can add anything to it. All right, did you guys have anything you wanted to add before we begin? Giving you guys some space.
Let the show start to begin to commence.
Okay. Let me just get all of my ducks in a row, because currently they're waddling away from me. And there we go. Just tell me if there's any problems. Put it in the pop-up chat, and let us commence.
People. The people.
I know it's common to talk about people like hating Hollywood and wokeness and such, but I know at this point a lot of you aren't angry.
Oh, you can't hear anything. It is sharing.
That's normal for us. We haven't been able to fix that ever, I think, but that's why we have the subtitles on, no?
Yeah.
It should be sharing through the Discord. So if you don't hear anything, that is a Discord issue. It's not an issue on my end.
It might be. Telemnar's been able to stream stuff without going mute.
Yeah, and I also think that there may be some issues with streaming from YouTube and Discord. I've noticed it's really iffy because they want you to use their terrible plugin. I don't know if you guys have any experience. It's called Activities, and it is profoundly broken.
So bad.
It is.
When watching the stream can hear the video. That's what's important.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna have to read the subtitles. Apologies, folks.
Well, they can hear it, but we can't. We have to read.
I meant folks as you guys.
Ah.
Maybe we need like different pronouns for the panelists versus the audience. Like we could have
There's one thing the world doesn't have enough of right now.
Panel-X, Folks-X. How's that? Folks versus Panel-X. I don't know.
Can we just call ourselves folks and the viewers chat?
That has okay.
Or Chatini.
Chatinex.
I stole that one from a VTuber. Don't do that.
Chatinex. We'll call them Chatinex. What do you guys think? You want to be called Chatinex? All right. So Chatinex and Panel-X. Let's begin again.
really. Not anymore. You're bored. You're apathetic. Like, oh, what's that? A male feminist is making a video game that subverts Christianity and the heroine has a masculine look?
I like how he's sort of like talking for us, but at the same time, as that sort of makes me rankle because I hate people talking for me. At the same time as I agree with him, I don't know if there's a word for that. It's like, I agree with you, sir. You're annoying me in the way you say it, but I'll take it. At least somebody's saying it. And yes, it is getting deeply annoying. Deeply annoying. Boring. Well, okay. Not annoying in a really aggressive way, but annoying like that. Like you have a tag in your shirt and you can't get at it because you're in the midst of, like, I don't know, of a seminar, and you just have to sit there and endure it, right? Because you can't leave because you get called out by your professor, and you're just sitting there. Ow, and it's just annoying. It's not. You're not gonna do anything aggressive about it. You're just gonna be annoyed, and as soon as you can, you're gonna get the annoyance out of your life. That's what media has become, and that's what these themes and ideas that I hate using the word woke because it keeps changing. It used to be social justice, used to be political correctness. Essentially, it's the attitude of creators who want to dominate their audience instead of entertain or understand them. They just want to morally dominate their audience. It's the same with chick tracts. In tone deaf, moralizing literature generally. You're not interested in educating us. You're not interested in really enlightening us. You're not interested in understanding your audience. You're just interested in teabagging them morally. Right? That's it. And it's aggravating, but I think a lot of people are so inured to it now. They have a callus that has no longer become, infuriating. It's now just get rid of it, move on. All right. Did you guys have anything to add to that? I had a lot, but I realize now that most of what I said was probably... Why did I say that? I don't know. Did you guys have anything to add to that?
I don't.
Okay. Thank you, Telenar. Oh, I should probably, when I stop and talk, I should probably switch it to... no, where are you? Where are you guys?
Although our avatars aren't visible
here
at the
we
bottom.
go. Here we go. That's what I wanted to do. I apologize, guys. It's been a while. We've been doing this meetup thing, which was cool. I got to meet Godcat for the first time, and I met Telenar again, and that was pretty awesome. All right, let's go back to... This is there we go. I'll get the hang of this again. I just completely forgot it. My cache refreshed or something.
Yawn. More and more, stories are not focused on characters who behave like real people because the writers have never met any. They've only seen online avatars and Tumblr fan forums. So all that's left then is...
Hey! I'm feeling called out here. But you're right. And actually, honestly, I think...
You were one of the good ones.
I think that the issue isn't that these people are terminally online. It is, again, that they want to establish dominant moral...
I just got a comment saying the sound is gone on the live stream. I can't hear the sound either.
Oh, I hit the quad. I apologize, guys. I just muted myself unintentionally. We're really pro here. Okay. All right. So what I was saying, how long did you miss? How much did you miss? Okay.
Well,
Okay.
they don't really know, but
We don't really know.
perhaps you could mention, or I could summarize the main problem with the writers is not that they're terminally online; it's that they are seeking extreme amounts of moral dominance.
Okay. Yes. Let me
And
can
yes,
I will take your foundation and revisit what I was trying to say while I had muted myself accidentally.
yes,
I can't even blame Boy the Cat for that. It's just my flailing. Um, so what I was saying is that he said it's because they're terminally online. I disagree. You could act terminally online people can actually write good stories. The problem is that they have a very very stagnant view of human nature, and you exist within your step on the ziggurat, and you are you what happens is that you basically get shat on by the people above you, and this is the intersectional ziggurat. You are not to move because it's stagnant. You are predetermined by birth where you exist on this ziggurat, and there is no movement, so there's nothing like a character arc. There's nothing you can really learn because standpoint theory says that the oppressed, who is everybody above you on the ziggurat, knows you more than you know yourself. And you can't understand them. They are ineffable. They are like the spirits of the air or the of space or God. You just cannot comprehend them. But they can comprehend you because their oppression by you has given them insights into your nature that you can never have. So how can you have a character arc? How can you have an arc where somebody gains insight to themselves when it's not possible for that to happen? You know, maybe if you're higher up on the ziggurat, you might be able to gain insight, but then you don't really need to. Because the only enlightenment you need is enlightenment to your own oppression and the fact that you don't need the ziggurat while standing upon it. So this has created a very stultifying approach to character. And it is anti-gnosis when it comes to understanding human nature. Because again, you just want people to stay in their spot on the ziggurat and they don't move. Character arcs imply they move, but they aren't supposed to move morally because everybody is assigned their appropriate caste by birth. And to move morally is to defy intersectionality. You get what I'm saying? Or you guys want to add to that? Now that people could actually hear it?
No, I think you explained it pretty adequately.
Adequate. I aim to be adequate. Okay. I'm going to keep going.
Is the plot, which leaves you with and then stories. This happens, and then this happens, and then this happens.
No and then! No and then!
No, it did.
Such was the case in Amazon's Wheel of Time.
That is not acceptable in the intersectional framework. It is a humorous interaction between a white oppressor and a colonialized immigrant people. And it's not supposed to be funny. We should all feel ashamed at the implications that he is somehow in judgment of their ability to take an order.
Television adaptation that was recently canceled, which should...
So it was canceled. I thank crap. I will say that when I read Brandon, sorry guys, it's muscle memory to say Brian. Brandon Sanderson was actually concerned or upset that Wheel of Time got canceled, not because he thought the show had any merit, which I don't think he did, but because he felt like the people who were producing it betrayed the audience for the show, which is that okay. I feel bad for you guys who invested in it, but what is that meme? I think the overall well-being and the overall goodness of the earth has increased by this thing being canceled. So I don't feel that badly for you. I can only imagine the psychology that enjoyed this show. But anyway, sorry that it got canceled. Sorry you're gonna have to find something better to watch. But Brandon Sanderson feels bad for you. I think he probably feels bad for you enjoyed it. He probably feels bad that they enjoyed it, but also bad that they lost their enjoyment. Go ahead, Cat. Or Dope Boy. I'm going to keep doing that.
As far as I can tell, this thing had a bigger hate-dom than fandom. Like, you go on YouTube,
Okay, so let me just double check. Okay, so like I was saying, I would be afraid to know the psychology of the people who enjoyed this show. And but even so, I mean they said that the second season did improve significantly. And who knows? That maybe that means that it was worth watching. I know we haven't gotten to it yet. We did watch the first season, so just to be fair to it. But was the show fair to us? Was it? Was it that show fair to us? Maybe in the second season they allow their actors to portray something other than dourness. One can only hope. All right, shall I continue, or do you have something you want to add? I'll continue then.
Maybe in the second season, they will do a better job spending their money so it actually looks like it cost over $10 million per episode.
Okay, yeah, maybe. All right, I think I got the right one this time. So if you guys speak, you will light up, and you're down below, in the down below. Hey, I'm reading a really good book that's called Down Below Station, by the way. You guys should check it out. It was when women could still write. C.J. Sherrill, very good book. Okay, let's continue. Now that I've squirreled. Okay, who's closing and opening a door?
sorry, that would be me.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, just mute. So we're not picking that up. Like I have any position to talk about volume issues. All right, let's go. Let's do this. All right, scene source. Here we go.
Surprising, because even calling this an adaptation is as generous as calling a kid with a lemonade stand an entrepreneurial citrus mogul. That show died for reasons which
Hey, I feel called out again. Except my thing was hot chocolate.
we will discuss, but
maybe he's secretly a fan.
Okay.
Hope for other productions. Hollywood writers can solve this problem with one weird trick.
Yeah, trying to be good at their jobs. Sir, you ask too much. You ask way too much. They would much rather suck, get a paycheck, and if you don't like it, call you a bigot. In fact, that is a win-win-win for them. They don't want to pursue any kind of merit because that would require seeing the audience as something worthy of pleasing, worthy of being judged by. And this is not how it works in the modern era. Writers tell you what to like. And if you don't like it, you are a Nazi. That's how it works now. Right? And they write to dominate you. and to enlighten you as to the nature of the glorious ziggurat and the ineffable others above you, who you cannot understand. All
So
right.
we're not being dominated in the fun way, just so we're clear on that.
Well, unless you find it fun, which maybe the people who enjoyed the Wheel of Time seasons did find it fun. Maybe that
The
explains
whole
it.
point of this, the whole point of the social hierarchy ziggurat is it's not fun for anybody except for the people at the very tippy top. Everyone else is backstabbing each other.
Mm-hmm. And not advancing in any conceivable way in their individuality.
Okay, if there's one
Oh, God damn it! Fine, we'll go through this. I'll continue to talk. Nope, the ziggurat is not supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be enlightening.
And straight.
I'm sorry, sir. Reality is homophobic and that grass is ableist. How dare. Get in your spot on the ziggurat and prepare to be teabagged morally.
Sorry, I don't give away the goods for free. Something else that isn't free? Taking care of children and supporting families. That's why this video is bookending a very successful fundraiser for Safe Families for Children.
All right.
You've had one ad, yes, but how about second ad?
I mean, this isn't probably a reasonable, like, what's the word for it? Like a cause. So, I mean, I don't know if I want to, I'm just going to skip it. Sorry, buddy. I'm just going to find where. All right. Where are you?
503.
Okay. 503 is where the ad stops?
No, I mean, I think that's where we get to the good stuff.
All right. Well, let's just let him finish his intro.
He talks a little bit about the showrunner Rafe Judkins a fair bit. He just gets a little catty.
Oh,
which might be
our friend Wraith. Why didn't they just give the entire story to like the guy who wrote the 4th episode? I think it was the 4th episode.
well, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, Dave, whatever. Oh, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Okay.
I mean, that's Hollywood for you. It's either Jews or desert Jews, or whatever, mountain Jews, whatever they call the Mormons.
Whatever they. Oh, wow, that went.
I mean, Mormons.
That definitely went in a direction I wasn't expecting. All right, let's continue.
This whole video just gloating, but I will attempt to stay on just one main thesis point, which is the showrunner, Rafe Judkins, like so many current writers, does not understand people. And that is why this show and so many others fail.
Okay, so I get what you're saying, Doughboy. We want to get to the substance, the meat of the matter, but I think gives us space to bitch about Ray Johnson. Or is it Ray Bell Johnson? What's this guy? Rafe Judkins. Sorry. Ray Johnson is Rafe Judkins' alternative world self that's actually good at writing.
Ryan Johnson, Rafe Junkins, and Russell T. Davies, the unholy trinity of writers.
Russell T. Davies can write when he chooses not to hand his homework in, do his homework the morning it is due. Okay. But again, what this individual is saying, oh, these people, wait, Morgan is actually smiling? What the hell? Is that just like a behind the scenes picture? Or AI?
I think this is behind the scenes.
Oh. Yeah, because all right. Wraith, I'm pretty sure he was, if he was involved in the actual directing of Reel of Time, he must have sat in that chair and said, more dour, less emotion. No, you have to look like you're recovering from some intimate infection. No, don't smile. Never smile. Never be happy. Just be dour. Oh yeah. Hopefully we get some more bitching about Wraith in here.
A story requires compelling characters, And this show has none. They possess.
Okay.
So maybe that's from a further season, from another season, because we only finished season 1, so we don't know what happens.
Yeah, but let's be.
Or smiling, I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. The hair looks a little bit too scruffy for on set, unless she's through a windstorm or something. I can't.
Well, that seems to be when they meet the IL in the desert, I think. Not sure, but who knows? They change all sorts of stuff.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to make a point. Okay. How do we even know these characters are compelling when they are not allowed to, the actors and actresses are not allowed to demonstrate any kind of emotion? Like, how the hell would we know? They regard everything with the same level of cynical detachment and dour kind of disgust. It got so exhausting that I started to remember our marathon of Game of Thrones fondly, because of all the problems that J.R. Martin has with his plotting, and he has many, and the showrunners had with their plotting. Well, I don't know if they had the problem with their plotting. There were other issues. He could create memorable characters and dialogue, and they had emotions. And yeah, that was an improvement over this mess. And I will say that I am not the intended audience for something like Game of Thrones, because I found it unrelentingly mean-spirited. Although I've been told it was a meditation on the nature of leadership, and I don't know, I that we could read more into it to see this kind of positive notion of human nature. I don't know if I wanted to put the effort in, but I will say that some of the stuff that we've watched later has made me appreciate Martin's ability to craft characters that are memorable and have interesting things to say. This was neither. And again, how could they be compelling if you can't even remember who they are, or if they never have an emotion?
Has no traits that are recognizable or engaging for the average viewer. They don't understand what is important to fantasy genre fans, so they can't give it to you. Conversely,
well, I'm not really a fan of epic fantasy, so I went into this not really expecting to be offended or underserved by anything, because I wasn't really expecting anything. For whatever reason, I find epic fantasy to be sort of very, I don't want to say dreary, just long. It's very long. And I found the book to be very full of stuff that I didn't find interesting. So, but I am not an epic fantasy fan. This is something I've discovered after trying to write or read multiple epic fantasies. So take that with a grain of salt. But I didn't go into this with an expectation that my epic fantasy fanness was going to be served. So that it goes beyond that. This is not just epic fantasy fans that can't get anything out of this. This is what I'm saying. It's fans of human life, and understanding and describing human life. Let me see if you guys have any. Did you guys want to add something to that?
I would just like to say that we have gone from emotions being gay to emotions being heteronormative. It has not been an improvement.
the concepts
that's useless. Ignore it.
No, it's okay. It's true though. Wait, emotions are heteronormative now. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Only the privileged have the privilege of experiencing their emotions, positive emotions.
Themes that Rafe and others do care about are so low on the priority list for most viewers that they seem wholly alien and pointless. The author of this article is excited about Rafe lifting countless bits of queer subtext from the novels and pushing them into the forefront of his adaptation. But
countless bits of queer subtext. Something I'm guessing nobody wanted. Oh, good lord.
I doubt most
Well,
of
they stopped
you
being
really
subtext.
care.
Now they're
Just as you
front
probably
text.
didn't care about the numerous and extraneous scenes featuring the throuple of Alana, Ivan, and Maxim, the latter being played by Taylor Napier, Rafe's longtime boyfriend.
What? I guess I wasn't really watching.
I think this appears in well, we only watched season 1. There's season
Oh.
2 and season 3.
Oh, so this is something that we get to look forward to in the other seasons. Ugh, good Lord. I mean, I guess it's a fantasy world. You can have thruples. I hope they're plot relevant, or they add some kind of characterization. It's not just titillation, literally.
This added to the boredom of the show and diluted it, because those characters exist to well, honestly, they exist because Rafe wanted heavy polyamory in his fanfic, but also they're there to teach the viewer about
Sorry, I just need to change this.
the bond between Aes Sedai and Warder. Except that was already being covered by major characters Moraine and Lan. That's inefficient writing in a story that is already packed with characters, and it's just one of the many reasons why the show was plain bad.
Okay, this I'm going to have to defer to Doughboy and Telemnar, because you two both watched or read the books. Now, I have looked at other sources that have said that there was plenty in the books to adapt. You don't need to add more stuff. What do you think of the additions overall?
I actually think of the additions as being subtractions, if that makes sense, because they replace. I've only read the first book, and I honestly don't remember it that well because it didn't capture my interest that much. But one of the things that I know wasn't in the show was that entire sequence with Moraine and her sisters at the tower. They honestly did not need to have that, especially because it replaced a more important element from the books, which is a scene where the protagonist, Rand, actually meets a prince and a princess and becomes acquainted with their mother, the whole royal family almost. And it sets the stage for stuff that I think happens in the next book. So either they've completely adapted that out, or they're going to completely overhaul it in a different way for the next season. But either way, it's actually kind of like the season finale where they introduce this brand new faction of characters. I'm worried that they might do that if they adapt it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have heard that. Okay, go ahead, Telemnar.
I was going to agree with Doughboy. The stuff that just doesn't exist in the books when it's added also comes at the expense of stuff that is plot relevant in the books and has to be taken out. And these are, as it's been mentioned, these are very large books. There are 14 of them. They only had a limited amount of time, limited number of seasons, but nevertheless, they should not have added anything, and they just should have had to cut where necessary. But instead, their egos were too big, or Rafe Judkins' ego maybe in particular was too big, and they said, we'll add stuff that's not in the books because we're awesome, and we're going to have a lesbian scene with the Aes Sedai, which is like a reasonably attractive older woman making out with a much less attractive one with a huge close-up that when, like, seriously, you can cast better-looking people for the witches who are usually described as being, like, different varieties of like ageless and kind of like differently pretty. They definitely went out of the way not to cast very good looking people either a lot of the time. So yeah, don't approve the additions.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said don't approve.
Another problem I noticed with the show is that the elements that they did keep, they dramatically altered for the worse. Like, in the books, Moraine, the head witch, was actually kind of one of the characters that I somewhat enjoyed. And from what I recall of the books, she was a very polite, level-headed, elegant character who only ever got snappy under like the most intense of circumstances, like when the kids were being really dramatic and childish. But in the show, she's almost constantly judgmental and harsh to everyone.
Well, I think part of the problem that this show has is the books were written in the 90s and were made to be of a alternate kind of feminist inspired world where women have massive amounts of real political power in the formal sense and lots of social power and influence and stand in moral judgment over men on a regular basis all the time. And they have stuff like at one point in the books, for example, Matt basically gets turned into a semi-involuntarily turned into a toy boy by a particularly powerful woman who just needs an outlet for her frustrations and all kinds of stuff like that, which was definitely not the author's fetish appearing in his writing. And it just was not feminist enough, even with all that. So they just said, well, we're just not going to follow the at least decent writing and characterization that the author usually had, and we're going to do our own thing, and it'll be even better. And it's not better.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear some more.
Not just as an adaptation, just bad. Now, because it was such an egregious bait and switch, I don't owe this show any goodwill. I don't need to judge it on its own merits, as so many defenders will plead, because it doesn't have its own merits.
Not wrong.
It was sold on a lie.
Generous God.
And I will do it anyway to explain why there is no audience for this trash television, hence its cancellation. And I'm not sure why anybody's confused when you got scenes like this.
A Gleeman's apprentice. Then, I was a song.
Fine.
Girls, walk on your titties.
Now, if you haven't, I do encourage...
Does it actually get worse in the seasons that we haven't watched yet? Good Lord.
you to read these books, and you'll
Or reason to
quickly
not
discover
continue.
why Amazon wanted to ride this name recognition and why so many people love this series. When you read them, you can tell Robert Jordan lived an actual life. He met real people. He understood the concerns and challenges and aspirations of humans that live outside the LA screenwriting bubble. Now, I'll tell you about the show's failings, but also I'm going to tell you why his characters feel real and his series contains themes and ideas that...
My dear brothers and sisters.
Oh boy. Again, I'm not really a fan of the books. I think Telemnar you might be and Doughboy might be. So we got a bit of a balance on this panel.
Just like I need you to touch that like button. Blood and ashes, I got him on that one. Okay, hey, real quick.
What?
Yeah, new cup. My kids were at Hobby Lobby, bacon and eggs. Super cool, but I gotta show you this. My daughter has been crocheting, and I asked her for a Moogle, and it's finally done. Look at this. Now, a good majority of this video is going to be about how the show failed at gender dynamics, because that was one of the biggest themes in the books. But first, let's hit some smaller topics that likely put viewers off a little bit, and hopefully you're going to see how these little problems add up to an audience that simply is not invested. Now, it's important to reiterate how much most viewers do not care about the added eroticism in the show, and exponentially more for the homoeroticism. A key concept that pushers of this kind of stuff do not understand is that does not care is not the same as hates, and it's also different from does not mind. Does not care is pure indifference, like how I do not care about soccer or football or whatever for you international folks. I am 100% neutrally uninterested, neither good nor bad. But if I'm looking to spend my free time and an entertainment product heavily features this sport, look, no hard feelings, I'm just probably going to find something.
Why do you have to make this concession here? That you're neutrally non-interested in having this type of sexuality shoehorned into a story with no actual plot. Because the problem here is, why is it there? Why is it there? What is it doing there? If it doesn't have any kind of plot significance, it isn't world building, then why is it there?
In my opinion, it's because of the effect of Game of Thrones, which when it first came out, which is a while ago now, people weren't as terminally online and not spending as much time gooning as they are now. Perhaps especially people who are a little bit older. So they would get a lot of titillation from the show that they might not be getting otherwise. And so it's sort of, and of course, HBO also generally did that. They put lots of sex in their, like random sex stuff in their shows. So maybe they just thought, oh, that's what they did. It worked really well. Let's do the same thing. And they didn't pay attention to little niggling details like trying to make the writing make sense.
Yeah. But then why is it there? Right? And when it's there, when it's shoehorned in, of course, we experience the problem that the writing gets worse. All right, let's keep going. So, objectively, it's more than just, oh, I don't care for it. It's that they're shoehorning in something that doesn't make sense in the context of the characterization, the world building, or the plot. Why? Why is it there? It's there to push a message.
It also contradicts the novels because from what I recall, there was no sexual content in the book.
I couldn't say.
Something else. Unless it has some other massive draw, like Ted Lasso, which you absolutely should be watching.
Obviously, we're bummed out that O'Brien tore his butt.
It's my upper hamstring, coach.
Well, you tore your butt, son. There's nothing to be ashamed of, okay? It happens. People tear their butts all the time in athletics.
And LGBT representation is heavily featured here. Sometimes it's shoehorned in so clumsily that it contradicts the story. In one episode this season, Rand is viewing memories from his ancestors, his direct bloodline. He sees multiple visions going all the way back to a time when one of his forefathers set out to protect some artifacts because the world was pretty much ending. Now, did you notice something that might cause a problem for the ancestral memories concept? It's just more of what the viewer doesn't care about. On top of...
Well, technically, in other eras, even if men had relationships with other men, as long as they got married and had children, they were considered to be okay. We changed that when we started to identify based on our sexual attractions, which wasn't a thing until the 1850s. So, I mean, you could argue that unless it isn't established, and these are bona fide homosexuals in the modern sense in the middle of a medieval fantasy. Okay. Anyone want to add?
The original book, Eye of the World, the first book in the series, literally just opens with that guy, one of the two, the redhead on the cart, I think it was. Unless I'm getting my characters mixed up, but they change all of their appearances. Like they're not even trying, or if they are trying, they're just trying in the opposite direction. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're you literally have him walking around having gone insane with the bodies of his wife and children around him, and there's no mention of any other person. So that's a complete addition. Although I think that redheaded guy, let's see, I don't think either one of them was Luz Theron Telamon. They're somebody else. Like, were those guys supposed to be like a couple of bodyguards or something? It's hard to say because the problem is, I know, like, you can tell by looking at people in the Lord of the Rings who they are based on the descriptions in the book. It's much more difficult to do that with Wheel of Time, unfortunately.
Yeah, it took me a long time before I could identify the two different female characters. I actually still don't have a lot to go on in terms of their different personalities. And eventually it was just simply, we took a really good look at the actresses outside of the show. And incidentally, the makeup artists and lighting on that show, at least in the first season, they're working overtime to make those young women look as unattractive as possible. They're not using flattering clothing. They aren't using flattering lighting. They are not using flattering makeup. And I actually had a long discussion with the panelists that if you're typing, please mute. And had a long discussion with the panelists about how it can be more difficult to make people with darker skin tones stand out, period. And then they add in this kind of murky tones of, like, well, tone is implied, gray is implied in tone, but murky blues and burgundies and like really dour yellows. And it's just the female characters don't look noteworthy at all. They don't even look like they are lit in a way that makes them pop out of their backgrounds. And that might be fine for like a secondary character, not even a secondary character, a background character. But for these women are supposed to be our heroines, and they look like crap. And they look like crap because they can barely see them. And nobody spent some time thinking carefully about what kind of outfits would actually look good on them and what kind of lighting would actually look good on them. Now, I hate to be ethnist, but I actually think that the Indian main character would have probably looked better in brighter silks than dour European peasant garb. Right? It doesn't look too bad on somebody with very pale skin, although I don't think it looks good on anyone. But maybe just, she's going through all of these magnificent cities, right? Could she not get like just some woman befriends her and puts something brighter on her so she doesn't look like absolute crap? I mean, you have plenty of excuses for her to change her clothing into something that's not dour, except that you want to maintain dourness. And the other actress, the actress who's black but partially so, and I don't know. Nynaeve, the actress who's Nynaeve, she is actually outside of this show fairly good looking. You know, I mean, she's probably solid up there, 8 at least, when she's properly lit and somebody's putting makeup on her that doesn't apparently despise female beauty, and she's in clothing that isn't making her look like crap, and none of that happened. Like, why would you do that? Why would these actresses even consent to being like disregarded in this way? Not treated like a main character, but treated like a background extra in terms of your lighting and clothing. And I would say Morrigan, I think that's how you say her name, got off a lot better with this. She looked Moiraine. She looked like she looked like a main character in a fantasy epic. Put it that way. She was properly lit. Her clothing was flattering, and she objectively she wasn't more attractive than the other two. And yet, after the clothing, the costumer, the makeup artist, and the lighting got all over the other two, they looked like crap, like just forgettable. All right, does anyone want to add to that?
And historically, I would. So we've gone over this before, but historically, this is like the equivalent of the Middle Ages in Europe, late Middle Ages, something like that. People in that time wore brightly colored clothing, even if they weren't very well off. They did have colorful dyes, and they would wear all kinds of colorful stuff. Not if you were very, very poor, but yeah, they didn't all dress in dim, dingy colors. They cleaned their clothes. They cleaned themselves. This is just, there's no reason for the main characters not to have very distinctive looks. I think like Nynaeve, for example, which is the played by the black actress whose name I don't remember. She, I believe, wears a yellow dress. Like that's her favorite color, or is it green? But she has like a distinct, maybe it is green. Or maybe it's, green or yellow. Like it's a distinct bright color. I can't remember which one at the moment, but they're not all wearing, they're not wearing dull colors, and there's no reason for them to have to wear dull colors if they're buying their own clothes and looking nice.
Okay, so
for their normal everyday garb.
My time codes are not showing a heck of a lot of interest after about 12 minutes. Is that true for you guys? I'm pretty sure we went through this whole thing, but did you either of you have anything you wanted to look at after 12 minutes in? Nope.
We looked at the other video by him, which was about the how to fix characters.
Okay.
This is the one about Wheel of Time.
Yeah. We could look
So,
at
but they're related.
Yeah, we could look at the one where he either talks about Finn, which is something I'm familiar with, and or Rand, which is something I'm also familiar with, at least from the show. Okay, let's keep going.
Being a head-scratching story problem, but it continues with the casting.
Sisters, this week we lost Marith Giant.
Again, story problem, because we're working with a
Oh boy, this is something that we have not gotten to. So apparently Wheel of Time put in a trans female character. And from what I know, the magic system is based on your biological sex. So, yeah.
magic system that has distinct male and female halves. But beyond that, it's another immersion-breaking reminder to the viewer that this is a show made by people who want to impose what they wish the current world looked like instead of fleshing out this fantasy world for their entertainment. They do not understand what the people in the audience care about. Oh, real quick, because I'm going to get some comments, just want to head off the rebuttals from anybody that's going to want to say that, well, the books had transgenders and they're going to bring up Erengar. I just want you to please take a minute, consider the implications of using the example of one of the villains, a highly lustful man who was reincarnated into a woman's body as an ironic punishment by Satan. Do you want to use that? Now, that apathy and disconnect are magnified when the production continually has things that look or...
Yeah, but also wouldn't he be a trans man? That seemed to be more of a trans woman.
Ooh, wait, that's that character who is... Well, you'd have the body of a woman. So that's what you'd call a trans woman, because there's a... Oh, God. Well... Look, this is an interesting thought experiment that they are trying too obsessively to link to their pet political thing. Because I remember this character in the book. It's actually kind of interesting the way he does it, which is the character who has this happen to him, who has his spirit put in the body of a woman, is basically a total horn dog in his previous life, and this is his punishment. It's, aha, now you are a female horn dog. You are a horn bitch, or whatever we're going to call it. And he has problems adjusting, like it's mentioned, even little things like when he who is now she tries to dance, she tries to lead instead of to follow, as of course women should, and things like that. Like there are but it's not like some minor social baubles are mentioned, but this isn't a huge deal because, of course, ideologically, this was not nearly as big a part of the landscape of the time as it is now, or as big a part of the zeitgeist, or whatever you want to call it. So it just doesn't really apply, and having to see yourself in everything, literally and exactly, is really bad for the art form itself, whatever it is, for the piece of art that you're dealing with, a story or what have you, because then you can't let things be themselves and just say, well, this is a bit of a metaphor or analogy or a similar type of thing, because if anything, if it's not exactly you, it will have its own internal conceptual logic. Like, this is actually a man's spirit in a woman's body. There's no surgery, there's no hormones, there's no there's just magic. And I don't remember if they detail any personality changes from being in a woman's body and therefore having a woman's hormone level. So who knows? But that means you can't have this magical situation where the magical spiritual essence is just plunked into the body and now it's a man in a woman's body, because it has to be, or would have to be, ideologically acceptable to transsexual people. So then you can't do that. So it's just another way in which our modern manias make it difficult or impossible to do any number of things.
Okay, let's...
Like, in fact, Oh no, I'm going to keep going because I can. My avatar is Tolkien, and he sort of mentioned, oh yeah, the dwarves are kind of based on the Jews, and they're scattered from their homeland and trying to get back, and they're good at being goldsmiths and making money, among other things. And so that's fine. But imagine if people had had that same attitude back then, and they would have said, well, hang on, the dwarves are shown as being like they're brave, but they're not going crazily out of their way for their friends, or they're really interested in just paying other people to do the dangerous stuff for them instead of doing it themselves a little bit. This is kind of negative anti-Semitic, and they would have gotten Tolkien canceled, and we wouldn't have The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So screw these idiots. I am done talking now.
Okay, we're going to move to gender.
About it.
What about you two? Did you use the ways to come here?
It's unimportant. It won't come up again.
That lack of travel detail makes the world feel tiny, which is precisely the opposite of what epic fantasy should feel like. Each location is just...
Introducing Grammarly.
Sorry about this. We will quiet that. For whatever reason, his time codes are a little bit off.
Into the same traps of youth dynamics. The issue with the show is the handling of gender dynamics.
So he says the biggest issue...
Traps of
the biggest issue of the show is the handling of gender dynamics, which I think is what everybody is here for.
Useless male characters and flawless females that has been heavily robbing stories of their interest for over a decade now. These folks really don't get how men and women behave. It's a
yeah. Yes. But that for them, that's a feature. And they would honestly probably argue that their conception about how men and women behave, that men oppress women, and that the past history was about men excluding women from all the cool stuff, rather than women being limited by their biology from doing certain roles, which men then were obligated by society to do for women. So, no, they don't understand men and women. What they understand is their screwed up caricature of how men and women exist and act, and also that because men have for so long derided and minimized and been chauvinistic about what women are capable of, right? Men have been purposefully restricting women from doing things like fighting while 9 months pregnant, completely arbitrarily. And all of these roles throughout history are a result of men being incredibly dismissing of women's innate talents. They think they are correcting a wrong by creating these girl bosses who just stick it to the man and find out that they're everything they needed all along. They are correcting an issue. They are correctly placing women and men on that ziggurat of intersectionality. So it's not that they don't understand men and women, which they don't. It's that their ideology makes it so they cannot accept any kind of complementarian or cooperative relationship between men and women. Okay. You guys want to add to that?
Yes. It's not just that they see the relationship between men and women antagonistically, but the way they conceptualize humans is more collectivist and individualistic. So the characters, regardless of what you think of male-female dynamics, they can't even write them as fundamental individuals. The female characters all seem to share the same personality across the entire show. Mildly bitchy, often dour, and the male characters
even more shame.
Not usually all that happy themselves, but at least have slight more range emotionally.
Well, I would say that these female characters are endemic across all of this kind of writing. This intersectionally motivated writing.
A decade now. These folks really don't get how men and women behave. It's a failure that's even more shameful since the source material was all about this dynamic and how most of our failures lie in seeing the opposite sex as the opponent instead of a partner.
Sir. You are talking to people who literally see gender roles, sex roles, as one of oppression and oppressed. Do you think you're actually going to crack that salt dome and get them to actually be like, oh, you're right. We shouldn't see the sexes as one of enemies or opponents. Like, you really think that is, they think that this, you think this is a flaw. This is a feature for them. Okay? That's why they went balls to the walls with this. That's why they apparently completely misinterpreted the intent of Robert Jordan and went balls to the walls with men and women are each other's enemies. Women should be the ones winning right now. So let's boss babe the crap out of this story. This boss bitch the crap out of this story, because we're going to give women theirs, because theirs has been taken away. Their bag has been taken away throughout all of human history. And if you want to challenge that, there is a lot of ideological momentum behind viewing the relationship between men and women as one of enemies and a zero-sum or a negative-sum game even. One in which men are defined as oppressors and women defined as the oppressed. Like, good luck. Especially since I think that I don't think that he's at the point where he realizes how deep this goes. Okay, does anyone want to add?
Well, I guess I'll mildly play devil's advocate here and admit that gender roles are not just products of biology. They stem from that, but law and social norms do reinforce them, often at the expense of people who fall outside of them temperamentally.
You can push back on that, but for the most part, women's limitations throughout history have not been a result of their personalities but literally because of their biology.
Oh, I would agree, but there is some wiggle room. There's a slight argument to be had that at least a small part of it is social customs and legal norms that hold people back, at least previously, before modern industrial technology
Maybe
made up
on a
for a lot of the
caste
biological differences.
Maybe on a caste level, like a class level, but I don't think so on a biological level. You know, I really don't think it was men preventing women from going on long expeditions around the Horn of Africa to find a new trade route. Oh, nor was it biology, or nor was it men preventing women from being part of commie-pot.
No, I would agree, especially because as people have done more research on history, they've found more and more examples of women who did just a lot of those things anyway. Like, I remember coming across a woman from the 1700s. She was from Iceland, and she was actually a sea captain. And that was a promotion she got after working as essentially a fisherman. I forget her name, I'd have to look it up, but history is quite full of women who fell outside of the norm anyway, so there technically wasn't anything that held them back, since they still got to do it.
Yeah, again, it was just biology. You had to choose between being that and being a wife and mother, and most women chose wife and mother. And they weren't forced into it either, unless they were like a princess, like Renaissance princess or something. And even then it was supposed to be consensual, because you could annul a marriage based on an allegation that one party didn't agree to it, usually the woman. But like peasant women in a lot of like Northern European countries didn't get married till their late 20s. It was a voluntary thing, right? But then after that, you are constrained by the process of giving birth, lactation, early childcare. And also, societies didn't want to send women into dangerous situations when they could send men. Not because they wanted to restrict women, but because they didn't want to see women dead. They didn't want to see their daughters dead. Okay.
Robert Jordan was an expert at exploring the subtle differences or unadmitted disparities, and in women, often very ways. One particular funny scene in books happens. Aiel are coming back to the town of field, and the wife knows that fight corner, so takes her aside for a chat about how to handle. A few pages later, met up with two men who haven't seen Prince since he left, and single. One takes him aside to give advice about how to handle women, and it's basically the same advice both times, each other, and it's a recurring theme at town having.
And this is actually accurate to human history too. In peasant societies, generally it's women who have the functional leadership, but they, I don't want to say make a show, but men are seen to lead in their particular sphere. So day to day, women tend to lead in peasant societies. They decide when the crops are sown. They decide when they are harvested. They decide how to preserve them. How the farm is run. But they concede to men's leadership when it comes to judicial matters, overall village matters, and matters of defense. And it works because both sides thinks that they're the ones that rule, and thinks that both sides think they're the ones who are in charge, think that men are in charge, or at least they say overtly that men are in charge, but both sides realize that it's women in charge, but they keep the polite fiction going. That's just the way it is with humans, at least in peasant societies.
A town council of men, and also a woman's, and each one thinks they're really running the town, and they're letting the other play at running unimportant matters. Hilarious. The comedy in these books is so underrated. Unfortunately, the show is made by people who are on 6th or 7th wave feminism now, and would not allow any of this kind of, and they certainly didn't want to have even prints of men being women. This killed the writing because it left zero room for levity, and it resulted in the female characters flawless, which is another way of saying boring. When you're terrified to give a character, you also don't give them any ever. And since the writers think understand enlightened ideals, also end up creating dialogue that is as terrible as insulting.
Leave you like you didn't need it.
What's your favorite part?
Also, because the runners favored the female characters, but wanted calling this station, the men needed to be on screen for a while, but they had nothing to do, so they were boring. Good portion of the show have little be there, so you have a wonder this Matt guy, and why is anybody letting this jerk hang around since this? Oh, second season almost over. I guess we got to shoot this hideous-looking horn. Books have to, whatever. Book Matt is impulsive and hilarious, but will always have your back. Joe Matt is just...
You don't need a second job.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so... I mean, I don't agree with everything he has to say about gender. He goes deeper into it. I think we'll go to male friendships after he explains his thesis on Matt.
Summarize Book Matt for you. Really. Oh, here we go. Okay. You won't catch me doing that. I just want to gamble. I'm no bloody hero, Matt exclaimed, while proceeding to do the most heroic thing. It's just that, again and again.
But if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Of this adaptation. Over setup or motivations unfold. Sure, Rand goes to the waste, but what reason would he have for that with what he knows in the show?
Yeah, now we're getting into failures in setup and payoff, which this has in spades. Like, there were a lot of areas where... Okay, let me use the trip into... What is the alternate world that they traveled through called? Trollockville? I don't know. What was it called? Can either of you?
Do you mean the portal that they take to travel quickly? It's just called the Ways.
Okay, the Ways. So they're the episode where they're in the Ways, right? Somebody screws up channels. One of the two females, who I cannot distinguish between them, screws up channels, brings this dark wind upon them, which is very dangerous, apparently. Doesn't really seem to do anything, but it's very dangerous. We take that at face value. And they leave the portal early and end up in this fortress town. Okay? Now, if you've read like scene and structure, every scene has to have scene of conflict. The conflict has to resolve prior to the climax with a yes but. Right? So if your heroes succeed or appear to succeed, they need to fail substantially in another way that maybe they don't notice initially, or we understand because we see that, you know, I don't know, Indiana Jones has escaped the snake pit, but we've had the boulder coming down the chute set up like a couple scenes ago, and we know that that's where he landed. Oh boy. So that's a yes but. Yes, he escaped the snakes, but he's about to be squished by the boulder. This was, yes, they escaped the path, the pathways or whatever, the whatever it was called. And then there was supposed to be a but there was no but. It actually benefited them to leave the pathways before they expected to, because they ended up going to this fortress town, right? And meeting up with the woman who finally resolved the mystery of who the dragon is. Which is actually something that they needed to do because they needed the dragon to go meet the Dark Lord. Right? And they didn't even, like, Matt, the character that he just talked about, they didn't even play up the fact that Matt just decided to farf off and not go with them because he was afraid or he had to do something or what, he had a higher calling. His princess was in another castle. Who knows why he did it, but they didn't even set it up like, oh, now we have to go to find this woman so we know for sure that we are bringing the dragon reborn to the evil dude. No, they just screw up, don't die, exit the paths, and find out, oh, hey, this actually benefited us. We needed to go talk to this soothsayer about who the dragon was, which actually they should have been questioning, well, was it Matt? He left. Do we know? Like, we should probably figure it out. So that wasn't even set up. They just sort of fall into, it was not a yes but a yes, and it's better. They screwed up, and it made everything better. No, they faced a conflict, and at the end of the conflict, everything was resolved in their favor. And don't get me on the actual climax of this stupid season. I don't even know why they did what they did, where they did it, or for... But I do know that an entire town got annihilated, so there you go. Something happened of people I didn't care about. All right, let's. I'll go to male friendships. We'll see what he has to say about that, and then we'll move on.
Beyond that, there are plenty of friendships. Boys are great friends, had strong father figures. In addition, there was Lan and Rand, Parent and Ball, Tom and Matt, then Matt and Oliver. Boyle might be the best friend in the whole series. These are the kind of ideas that grab you and stay with you. Go have sad, lonely, ineffectual guys, a mouth-breathing widower, a shady, philandering gambler, a sad, old, grumpy musician, a simping swordsman, non-existent fathers, a dead Boyle, if you can believe that. Only in season 3 did Lan and Rand finally start training to some friendship. As a man, what is there?
Okay, so let's see. What the heck are you guys arguing about in the special chat? Okay, let me take a look at that.
Oh, I think this guy's a feminist. He's just going through the standard, stuff.
Okay, so, all right. There's no turning back from this now until... Okay, so this is in 1972, Steve McQueen slapped Allie McGraw on screen, and in 1973, Clint Eastwood's hides playing Gripter raped women as a punishment. What are we talking about here? Why are we talking about those shows when we're not talking about those shows? We're just seeing Hollywood make an adjustment. Oh, really? Do you mean adjusting to recognizing male victims of sexual assault by women? I don't see that. Hollywood appears to be adjusting into bad writing. Yeah, Eric, you're absolutely right. We should go. Wow, that's an awful. No, Itchy Gen 511. We should just continue to accept domestic violence and sexual assault of men. And you don't even talk about that, do you? Because you never look in the past and notice that people didn't care about that. And we still don't. We still don't care about those issues. Right? You answer to that. Hollywood isn't advancing on those issues. All right, let's I want to go to the next video. And let's see, what should you guys took a look at this. I think I would prefer to, I'm not going to go into the one for Stranger Things. We'll go into, it's really quiet, like really quiet. It's been we haven't been getting many people at all. Let us see. Where will we go? I need reading music. Okay, so.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Okay.
I can't do it.
I want to get to Finn's part.
We are so low budget.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We're going to talk about Finn because I know about Finn.
Who was broken by seeing the moral questions as well. This is probably
Let's get
just because they're on the other side. Like Richard Pryor, he advocates for none of the above and bounces. Now, you could either explore his nihilism turning into an attitude of, well, if I don't help these idiots,
okay, just a sec.
Space Reich is going to win, so I'd better do something, and influencing the resistance for the better. Or there were suggestions that his former troop...
Oh, okay, so I think this is a little bit too far back. Let's go back.
We're trying to fix Finn specifically?
Yeah.
Or look at, that section. Okay, just a moment.
Okay.
Why he's not the main character.
Oh, okay. So we're having a discussion of how Finn is not the main character.
Let's just talk about Rose.
Okay.
Of their way to appeal to some new fictitious audience instead of like simply serving the one they already had. We will do more Star Wars in the future, but for now, let's just talk about Rose and Finn.
There is another.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's obvious in the video. It'd be almost dishonest to not include her. But let's start with Finn, because he had the more interesting setup with more lost potential. Rickety Bridge actually wondered why he's not the main character. He's a defecting stormtrooper.
Yeah, he has the biggest moral quandary in all of the prequels, or sorry, the sequels, which would make him the most interesting character. So Finn, the thesis here is that Finn has the most interesting moral quandary in all of the sequels, which makes him the most interesting character, which is 100% true. Like, moral quandaries are what make characters interesting, which is why the female characters today in Hollywood are boring. Because they don't have moral quandaries, they are a moral quandary.
Finn explains it without clones. The First Order just kidnapped kids and pressed them into the military. He also shows a little Force sensitivity, which also piqued a lot of viewers' curiosity. Proud to be Geeky thought his janitor to Jedi story could have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been. I don't know what the hell Rey was. Just boring.
We all know character ultimately fizzled and actor John Boyega crashed out, as the kids say.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Oh, but what could have been? Ugh, there are so many interesting possibilities for this guy. It makes you wonder how they screwed him up.
They're lazy. And they don't understand how people do. And they don't understand how to construct a good story. If they did, they would actually do it for their beloved female protagonists. Do you guys want to add?
They also wanted to put down men.
Yeah, no doubt.
On accident. Overall, most of the members did agree that attempting to make him a Jedi if he wasn't the main character was a bad idea, except Master Chuddy, who wanted him to have a rivalry with Kylo Ren. Sounds kind of cool. But instead, it was suggested that he be a new Han Solo type character. That was from David Maida. He's got the freedom for the first time in his life. He can do whatever he wants. Finn could be used as a lens for the moral ambiguity that most writers are desperately trying for, but, can't accomplish at a level above the typical fourth grader.
Good guys, bad guys, made up words.
I can't even think of any jokes. That was just trash. Sorry.
Why the Rey thumbnail? Because it's pretty much generic Star Wars and we're talking about Star Wars. I couldn't get the AI to do Wheel of Time. I guess it was a little bit too rarefied. But,
Plus, I think Rey's... Oh.
Go ahead.
Plus, I think there's a case to be made that Rey is, alongside Captain Marvel, a symbol of everything going on with how female characters are written.
Yeah, Rey is a symbol of how terribly female characters are written. She isn't really a character. She's basically the writers, the male writers, constructing a situation where they can provide a female character everything she could possibly ever want, to the complete detriment of immersion in the story and any interest in her character arc. She doesn't earn anything because that's not what she is. She's actually wish fulfillment for the male authors or the male showrunners or directors. The wish fulfillment is that they are able to give her anything she wants. So she's basically just an object that they tithe to, that they deliver things to. She never does anything herself. She just has things delivered to her.
All right, so at first in our...
Because they're cool. By the people the men who wrote this, who basically, I guess, envisioned themselves as some kind of writerly Santa Claus. It's like you have inserts that are the person and they get into the story and then they just give themselves everything they ever wanted, right? And these are singularly awful to read. But then I think there's another type of, I don't want to call it insert, but it's like these male authors, they construct this female character and then they sort of, it's like a findom, where men have this compulsion to give women money while being berated and treated with contempt. It's sort of like that. It's like they're indulging an instinct to deliver stuff to women, to feel generous to this female character without, I don't even want to call her female icon, without actually really conceiving of her as a character that strives or attains anything as a genuine human being that has to put effort to get what she wants. She's just an icon of their own generosity. She's a projection of their ego. So if you find that entertaining, it's for you. You enjoy that kind of...
wonder.
You're either a woman who enjoys that kind of receiving stuff from men without earning it for yourself, or you're a man who enjoys seeing women as a projection of your generous ego. Okay, go ahead, Doughboy.
I was going to say, it kind of makes me wonder about the psychology of feminists, because I saw a lot of them celebrating Rey as a character when Force Awakens was first released. Although fights over Reylo seem to have killed that quite a bit.
I think that, honestly, I was talking to Grok, and I was looking at the studies that support gynocentrism. And what gynocentrism is this idea that women should be provided for and protected in a way that men shouldn't, and also that women are seen as more moral, more upstanding, more whatever good thing, and men aren't. And there is one category where women lose that perception, and that's when they're agentic. That means that's where we recognize that their actions matter and have consequences to others. That's when they lose that kind of women are wonderful effect. And I think what feminists are doing is they are trying to retain the women are wonderful effect while still trying to be agentic, which is impossible. Let me see what I've shown. So feminists like Ray because they are being given stuff, and it's in that context of being seen as a victim and being worthy of having things received. It's like just like this individual in our chat. What did they made a response to us pushing back against this framework is what? Women are victims, therefore they're owed. Right? So it's like Ray was an element of that. She doesn't have to earn anything because she's earned everything because women are victims and they're owed. Okay. I think does that make sense? I feel like I might have wittered a bit there. Okay, you guys are quiet. Is that because I've lost you, or you feel like...
I was just focusing on my typing a wee bit.
Okay.
I was talking a little bit in chat.
Guys, just that meme with that guy and he's looking over, and chat is the woman walking past, and I'm the one beside you. All right.
Yep.
Okay, let's keep going.
Fix. Finn is grateful to have met Poe and the Resistance, but through him, we could see their mistakes and their mismanagement, and then he decides, well, they're not any better than the First Order just because they're on the other side. Like Richard Pryor, he advocates for none of the above and bounces. Now, you could either explore his nihilism turning into an attitude of, well, if I don't help these idiots, the Space Reich is going to win, so I'd better do something, and influencing the Resistance for the better. Or there were suggestions that his former trooper life could achieve the moral questions as well. This is probably the biggest miss in the series. Robert Smith noted that even in the first movie, they forgot halfway through that he was a former trooper who was broken by seeing a fellow soldier die. Yeah, he kills a bunch of stormtroopers like an hour later. But what if instead he has this motive of being obsessed with freeing the kidnapped soldiers? Sleeve McDougall brought up giving him some kind of pathos about killing stormtroopers, and also had a great idea to make Phasma mean anything by doing like a two separate paths thing with Finn and Phasma coming from the same place in their backgrounds.
That makes a lot more sense.
Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but when a character has clear motives, makes the writing process easier, and it helps prevent plot contrivances. It could also make for some believable...
That's another thing that was missing in Wheel of Time. I had no idea what Rand's motive was from episode to episode. It seemed to change and make no sense. Did you guys get that sense too?
Which one is Rand?
Rand is the main character.
He's the guy with the slightly orange hair, right?
Yeah, the slightly orange.
I keep forgetting that was his name. Honestly, I wasn't sure what anyone's motives were. Like, I knew that the woman was trying to find the Dragon Reborn to dispose of the Dark One. So, like, she had a motive and she felt like more of a protagonist. But the others, I have no idea what they're going through.
Although Moraine, the witch, she often paused in her motivations. Like, that long digression with her lesbian is and the whole drama of the tower is a perfect example of how the plot would stop to include things it didn't need to include.
Exactly.
Drama. Now imagine that a mission that they're on gets blown because Finn really believes that he could save some stormtroopers, and he tries to make contact to rescue them, but happens to find a true believer who yells out traitor, sounds the alarm. Now imagine the conflict for him. Does the team hate him now? Did he really do what was right? Are the faceless troopers truly beyond?
Yeah, that's moral conflict, though. That's not acceptable in the intersectional ziggurat.
Saving? There could be some interesting conflict as he sees every stormtrooper as a scared, confused kid.
Okay, I think that a lot of people are misunderstanding what's going on. Right? And again, I think he's just trying to fix it because, yes, we should try to explain how these things are wrong, but the problem is that we think these are flaws, they think these are features. And we're looking at two different moral landscapes that are really incompatible. We have one moral landscape that essentially wants to assign people categories based on biological factors within the intersectional ziggurat. right? So people don't move. It's static. And the morality is the oppressor-oppressed morality. And also, standpoint theory, the oppressed understand the oppressor in the way that the oppressor can never understand. So the only possible conflict is basically struggle sessions in which the oppressor realizes the depth of their oppression and subordinates their morality to the person higher up in the intersectional ziggurat. That is their morality. They don't understand overcoming character flaws based on a morality that comes out of your actions. Okay? So they don't understand, or they don't consider valid the idea that people have flaws they have to overcome in character arcs, unless it's tied to an oppressor recognizing the oppression of the oppressed and realizing that the oppressed have epistemological privilege over them, and they should be constantly tithing to absolve themselves of the sin of oppression. But it's all very static. It's not about seeing morality in terms of your actions. It's only about seeing morality in terms of static categories that you're placed in by virtue of birth, and you cannot get out of ever through your actions. So the necessity, like the moral arc, requires people to be in categories that they can overcome or get out of. The intersectional ziggurat requires people to stay in their categories. It is static versus dynamic. And you can say, well, this is a problem, but they don't see it as a problem. They see it as enlightenment. So unfortunately, they're not going to take your word for this. And really, what they're going to see you doing is denying the truth of their moral framework and the accuracy of their moral framework. And they aren't going to respond by improving their behavior. They're going to respond by saying, you are immoral and probably an acceptable target of violence. I would say, yeah. Like, honestly, even this guy, though this guy thinks he's milquetoast and center of the road, because he is not subordinating to the static moral hierarchy, and he still continues to believe that there are moral arcs, that people can change in category, he is a Nazi. Why do you have to be that way, Greg Owens?
Kidnapping victim like himself, but the Republic has to view them as inhuman enemy combatants. I packaged Rose with Finn because their romance should have gone somewhere, but...
And that's the notion that two different points of view can be somewhat valid without assigning oppressor-oppressed dynamics. Good luck with that. It's too much nuance for most. Okay, would you like to add anything to that, guys? Okay, don't all jump in.
I got nothing.
Okay.
But didn't. Rose is also similar to him in that she doesn't have much to do. Pandemona noted that she seems forced in and doesn't have any point to exist in this story. The accusations of Kelly Marie Tran being a diversity hire seem pretty founded when the script forgets that she exists, and you could cut her out of the movie entirely with little to no impact. The actors always want to blame the fans, but weirdly, they never ask why the studio threw them to the wolves with flimsy token characters like this. In his defense, Boyega did, at first, but he too eventually blamed the fans. Well, the member...
Yes, because it's easier. And honestly, this is another thing. You think, you, Greg Owen, think that you are in position to judge the work when the work is judging you. Okay? Like, you are, this is not about entertainment. It's not about understanding you. It's not about giving you what you want as a audience member. It's about dominating you and making you subordinate in the intersectional ziggurat, making you realize what level you occupy in the caste system. Okay, and I hate to tell you, Greg Owens, but you are very white. You are obviously heterosexual. You are obviously a family man because you mentioned your daughter. and you are homosexual, you're not homosexual, you're not trans, right? So you occupy the lowest, that is the bottom level of the intersectional ziggurat. So your ability to complain about being educated about the spot that you occupy, now you don't have that. You don't get to argue that. You get to consume media that tells you what spot you occupy, and again, it is the bottom, and you get to say thank you to the people above you, the ineffable greater beings above you. Thank you for enlightening me to my privilege, right? And I will check it. That's what you get to do. You don't have an opinion. You don't have a legitimate opinion. You only get to listen.
Amber said the easiest way to improve Rose is to give her a skill, like Rickety Bridge said. Maybe the Republic needs her because she's the best, I don't know, slicer or something. Just do away with the silly Del Toro subplot and have her be the expert. Most folks were good with keeping the romance, but some were in favor of it being used for a tragic drama. Now, while they could have had a happily ever after and affected change in the Republic because of their backgrounds, there were suggestions that Rose should feel rejected by Finn. Proud to Be Geeky came up with that one. We could have Finn either genuinely not requiting her love or could be a misunderstanding. Now, normally, I despise a misunderstanding that causes relationship drama and people just don't say anything. But it could actually work in this case, but it would require a little setup for Finn. Now,
I don't know. I think we're talking too much about characters I don't give a crap about. All right, let's maybe I'll see if I can find the time code for Rand. Didn't make it very easy, but I think I can just look through this and see.
He's not in this. There's Rey.
Oh.
In Star Wars, but the Rand from Wheel of Time doesn't have much of a character. Maybe that'll change in the second season.
Yeah, I thought actually he did talk about Rand in this. So it was just Stranger Things and Finn. Ooh. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we can continue this and we can discuss his improvements. Honestly, I think these characters are incredibly boring. I mean, again, Finn could have been an amazing character if they genuinely looked into, didn't just see him as a token, but genuinely looked into the strife he's experiencing. But then that would require being able to model other people's minds. And this is the other secondary effect of the intersectional ziggurat. It actually makes people stupider when it comes to modeling other people's minds. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Like, it's become a skill that no longer exists among writers. They don't really know how to model people who think differently than themselves, and they really don't even know how to model people who think like themselves, because they don't really understand thinking anymore. Yeah, I'll throw that out. What do you guys think?
Well, writing is a very cognitive heavy skill, and they definitely don't have the best critical thinking.
Well, it's a cognitive heavy skill, and in fact, the ability of a writer is pretty much proportionate to their ability to enter the heads of the most amount of people, including a potential audience member. So they have to actually go into the point of view of somebody who isn't them, who might disagree with them. And if you want to present disagreements in your story, you need to be able to get into the head of as many people as you can who disagree with each other. And this is not what people who have been dumbed down by intersectionality know how to do. And the reason why is obvious. If they could get into the head of people who they disagree with, they wouldn't be advocating political violence against them. They would be able to understand them as human, right? And that is what they are denying in themselves, is the ability to understand people who disagree with them as human. And because they can't get into the head of people who disagree with them, people who might be in a different circumstance, have different impressions, like different motives and different goals, because they can't do that, they write crap. They don't write stuff that makes sense in terms of character decisions. It's just, as this man said, and then plotting, and then. Stories don't become stories until we are looking at the motives of the characters who are making the decisions to plot events and to create plot events. And they can't do that because they can't model any mind other than their own. And I'm skeptical they can't even model their own minds. And again, it's because they're embracing this pernicious form of human stupidity called intersectionality. Okay, do you guys want to add to that? I think we're pretty close to. This is a fairly long stream and has not gotten much attention at all. So I guess it's quite boring for people to listen to what we have to say. But anyway, I guess I'm being a little bit defensive and victimy. Go ahead, you guys, if you want to add to that.
Not to your argument, which I think is fine, but I think maybe we're not getting a lot of views because Greg's too milquetoast to really get much attention. I mean, he's not anywhere near as stupid or controversial as the other people we've looked at over the years.
Yeah, this is true. Or the other writers. Yeah, he's a very mild individual, and I think that he's at the toes of the dragon, and he's saying, well, I mean, we could just move these boulders and we'd have such better writing. And I'm like, those boulders are attached to something that you are not noticing. Good luck. But you better strap down your helmet and pick up your sword, because it's going to be quite a fight once you start touching the dragon's toes. Yeah, he is a little milquetoast, but go ahead.
He is, however, tall enough that if you gave him a lance, he could actually get somewhere pretty tender with it.
Oh, that's
so good for him. Yep, he's like 6'6", apparently. Or at least that's what he tells us. No one knows what's true on the internet.
Yeah.
Might be a dwarf.
Yeah, or he could be a chihuahua in a man suit. Okay, let's see. All right, so how much more are we spending with Finn? And is it worth it? Okay, we'll just keep going for a bit.
Now, we don't have to change Rose's backstory much. She's got a tough exterior because she's had a hard life and she's been a resistance fighter for a long time. She's jaded. She doesn't know how to be vulnerable because she sees it as a weakness. All of that, very understandable. Finn, on the other hand, would have to be played much differently for this to work. Now, remember, he was a kidnapping victim as a kid by a merciless, uncaring Empire wannabe. He hasn't had a normal life. He doesn't know how relationships are supposed to work. Kevin Heffley noted that they didn't even have names, just codes, so he probably didn't even have normal friends. So he accidentally friend zones Rose because he's so interpersonally ignorant. In either case, the spurned Rose gets revenge on him by briefly turning traitor, and then they become a tragic story as they realize their miscommunication, but too late. A lot of options for both.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be better. Honestly, just getting rid of Ray and Rose would be better. I mean, if you cannot write a story like a moral quandary for a woman, then why are you writing a female character? You're literally, like, when you fail to recognize that women can have moral quandaries, you're essentially denying them, in a Christian theological sense, their full humanity. Because our full humanity comes from our free will, and that includes our ability to do evil. So women should do evil and overcome it, and they should be tempted to do evil. But then when you're just looking at it from an intersectional ziggurat, women can't be tempted because it's actually patriarchy doing it, and women can't do evil because it's actually patriarchy doing it. That's the other thing about the intersectional ziggurat. Agency rolls downhill on it. So if you're part of the base, like Greg here is, he has full agency, which is why male characters are actually interesting. As you go up, you have less and less agency. You actually absolve your free will and your agency by blaming the people below you. So Ray can't have that kind of a moral quandary because that would require recognizing some kind of external moral standard outside of her being a victim of whoever's on top of her in the intersectional hierarchy, which denies the absolute the absolute, what is the right word for it? The absolute and incontrovertible reality of the intersection. Like that there is nothing outside of it. There's no morality outside of intersectionality. So there's no morality for Rey to be held to, unless it's about her checking her privilege for people above her in the intersectional hierarchy, which supposedly would be minority women, but functionally there isn't really anyone over white women on the intersectional hierarchy. I mean, if they have a desire to feel pious, they might do some obsequious rituals, but it really isn't. Okay, so do you guys want to add to that?
That's just been the case for years. It's always moral grandstanding, rather than any learning on their part. And that's the whole moral of Captain Marvel. I don't have to prove myself to you. I'm good. I'm perfect as I am.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. There's no recognition of an external hierarchy, and they just sort of sidestep the question of these white female characters actually checking their privilege in relation to the minority characters that they are part, like they show are part of their shows. They just sort of sidestep that. I mean, it's okay if you do it for gender dynamics, but apparently not race or class in these shows. All right, let's keep going. At least I don't recall that.
Independently and together. What would you do? Should they forego a happily ever after, or would you refuse to write a ruinous couple? It kind of hurts. It's like holding back a sneeze.
Ahead to 2158 if you want Rey.
2158. Oh, good lord. Good grief. I actually prefer...
That was brought to you by Adblock.
Yeah, I should, but I don't.
Yeah.
Because I actually prefer this delicious sizzling pancake over Rey. Look at that. It looks delicious. These are things that are not Rey. Now I'm gonna skip this and we're gonna go back to Rey. Woo!
Look, I feel like throwing up.
Sorry?
I feel like throwing up now.
Yeah.
Moment
it's a little bit of whiplash, but we got through it.
You've all been waiting for. You knew that she was gonna be here. I've got Rey at 5 on the Pixometer, but I think a strong argument could be made that she is, in some ways, a 1. Really easy. See, part of what irks people so much about this character is that she is nothing. She has no character. So, in that way, she's really easy to fix because she's a blank slate. However, the movie does wrap itself around her nothingness, so any change is going to shake the entire trilogy.
Yeah, it's a perfect metaphor for women as envisioned by intersectionality. They are absolutely nothing but what men make of them. Because if they do wrong, it's because of patriarchy. And unfortunately, if patriarchy is what's making you do wrong, then you're only doing right because patriarchy is not forcing you to do wrong, which is, again, a moral decision by quote-unquote patriarchy. So women are just, they're nothings. They're basically action figures being manipulated by patriarchy, right? Because agency flows down, and the big flow of agency in the ziggurat is from women to men, right? That is the most elaborate flow, like the most in depth. You see the most academic, whatever you want to call it, most academicoid bullshitting about how agency flows from women to men, right? So that's why she's a nothing, because she's just a projection. Like, she's just a gratitude or a generosity icon. She's just a woman to give stuff to from the male writers, right? That they feel ridiculously, because you can write anything in a story, so it's meaningless. It's just masturbatory to just write this female icon that you just give stuff to. Do you guys make the connection between that and like findom? It's that instinct to give stuff to women. And that's all Rey is. She's just a generosity icon that these men are giving stuff to. It's the writers that have the agency. She's just a joke of a character. Okay, I'll give you guys some space, and I'll be quiet so you can start immediately.
She doubles as a skin suit that feminists can wear to live vicariously and receive all those goodies.
Yeah? From men, which is what feminism is about. It's about a narrative to receive goodies from men, right? And to avoid the social cost of being seen as a woman as agentic. Like, they talk about these patriarchal bargains, and I'm like, you guys all play the victim because you don't want to pay the social cost of being seen as having agency. And all the social cost is you get seen more like the way a man is seen. And you don't want that. So you play the victim to pretend like this stuff is owed to you. It's the same thing as previous eras when women said we are the weaker sex.
Up, so you end up having to change everything. Hold up, I'm gonna let you finish. What the members have to say is very important. I just want to say thank you for the recommendation.
Oh. Okay, let's try to find. Okay, sorry guys.
Attention, on with the show.
There.
Kevin talked about how she has no internal issue to work through. And then Sleeve pointed out how the movie wants her to be poor, innocent, forgotten Rey, but also a hardened desert junker who is amazing at everything.
As a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating.
Tabitha chimed in that two-sidedness isn't really terrible, but it does need to have risks, like her being susceptible to the dark side. One of the drawbacks...
Okay, again, this is the problem. You are applying an external set of moral standards onto a female character that it exists outside of the intersectionality ziggurat. You cannot do that. You cannot do that, sir. That is not acceptable. That is not allowed.
Of the current stream format is that there is a character limit in chat, so some folks did email me because Rey requires a full overhaul. Sterling Jones recognized this and sent me some ideas for Finn, Rose, and Rey in a brand new movie trilogy that would take place a few years after Rise of Skywalker and attempts to fix them with sort of a soft reboot. He wanted Finn to be a commander in the new Republic, but have the Force call to him and go out and learn how to be a Jedi. He also wanted Rose to be head of the engineering corps or follow her story from the Cobalt Squadron book. But his idea for Rey was great and I think doesn't actually need to be in a future movie. Now, he suggested that in his movie, she would suffer from phenom sports star syndrome, where an excellent young player gets to college or the pros and realizes that their lack of challenge in the small pond did not prepare them for the ocean. And Rey heads down a villain arc for this very reason after the sequel trilogy is over. But that got me thinking that she could have been a great twist villain in the sequel trilogy by following a similar path as Anakin. See, for all their flaws, one thing that those movies nailed was a traumatized kid being handed ultimate power. Now, Rey was a bandit and had to grab her living out the mud, as the kids say.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Then she discovers that she has magic powers and can make things right, just like Anakin. Transformers 1 did a great job with this, and Star Wars could have as well. Both Rey and Finn have been traumatized. Their lives were crap, and it wasn't their fault, just like Megatron and Optimus. They could...
Yeah, that's the other thing. Rey doesn't really respond to the trauma she's experienced. Neither does Finn, but it's sort of egregious when it comes to Rey. Okay.
Would have been allies at first, but split as Finn vows to save the stormtroopers and change minds while Rey goes down the dark side path of forcing her view of justice.
Sir, there are no bad targets. Oh, sorry, there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. Oh, man.
Biden emailed me with a similar idea of having her kill Kylo early in the trilogy and then becoming a tyrant as she is the only Jedi left. A lot of these rewrites tend to paint Rey in a bad light, which is partly because the fans are still mad, but also because it was obvious that Disney wanted to do something.
Okay, you know the other reason why? Is because in order to make a very overpowered character interesting, you have to focus on the consequences of their actions. right? I mean, they do this with Superman, and how he has to hold back his power level, which, you know, I guess leads to a lot of frustration. But ultimately, and that's a different kind of character arc. It's the temptation character arc. If you're going to make a very, very powerful character interesting, full stop, you have to look at the consequences of their actions. That's what's going to make it interesting. Because nothing is going to happen to them. They're overpowered. So you have to look at what they are going to do. Again, you cannot do this in the intersectionality framework when you're dealing with a woman. And you probably can't do it with a man, because that would require men being more powerful than boss bitches, and you can't do that anymore. But that's why this is. It is probably in part resentment, but I think even more, it's dealing with an overpowered character that things come too easily to. How do you make that interesting? Okay? You look at their effect on others, and you focus on that.
Something fresh and cool. Well, there it is. Twist hero to villain arc with an understandable motivation and tie it in to a broader theme. Trying to control everything makes you an authoritarian control freak. The earlier suggestion for Finn would play into this idea perfectly, and it would echo the OG movie's ideas, but not in so obvious a copy and paste way as The Force Awakens. Oh, man, it feels good to fix things.
Yeah, sure. Good luck. They're not going to do it, because these are features, not flaws. What they're writing is informed by their moral worldview. They cannot get into the head of people who disagree with them, because if they did, they'd probably be completely ostracized by their friends, if anything. Like, I mean, could you imagine? Like, I wrote a book that understands the motives of Nazis. Well, that would make them a Nazi within the intersectional framework, and thus a legitimate target for violence. Like, I don't... Write your own stuff. Okay? I mean, yes, these are great exercises to understand where they went, but they didn't go wrong, because all of this has an explanation when you look at the intersectional ziggurat. All of it. Ray's complete, her complete lack of recognizing the consequences of her actions on others. Like the fact that she's just a void. She's just a skin. And she is basically the embodiment of these writers checking their privilege by handing her everything that women were denied throughout history. Which is why we had that feminist come in and say, oh, women's victimhood justifies Ray's existence. Really? Okay. Well, but that makes sense within the intersectional framework. Women were denied all of these wonderful, awesome things, like dying in war, dying in a pit full of your own bodily fluids. Now, they were denied these things unfairly by men. All of the achievement and wonderful activities that men got to engage in, women were denied them. They had that stolen from them. So these writers are going to check their privilege and correct that mistake by handing Ray everything. I don't know if it's conscious, but it's well within the rubric of the intersectional framework. And also, you can't attribute agency to Ray, because that would require recognizing something other than women for women to affect. And maybe you can do that with minorities. I don't know if they have yet. I guess they could try that with female minorities, women who are cis het white women, taking responsibility for checking their privilege for minorities. I don't even really see that as a big theme in women's fiction. Or no, actually there was for a while there was a bit of that. There were white women who were enjoying fiction that involved them behaving in pious ways towards women who are minorities. But although overall I'm reminded of this one Jordan Peterson event where he was talking to an intersectionalist, and she described how all of these, how men had got unfair advantages and women should get stuff because men have unfair advantages. And he said, well, and also minorities are unfairly disadvantaged. And he said, well, why don't you give up your job to a minority? And she said, well, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, well, that's very convenient. I think you'll notice that the focus is mostly on what men owe women, not what women owe minorities or female minorities. It's very convenient. But anyway, you guys have anything to add to that?
Yep.
You guys have been quiet today. You're just like, you're chilling, you're zen, you're vibing.
Well,
I've been doing some typing.
Yeah.
You're kind of saying everything for us.
Jeez, I'm sorry. God damn, I'm woman-splaining here. Okay, I don't know if there's anything more here. No, it's just thank yous. All right, so we got through these 2 videos. I hope you guys found this edifying. I'm giving you guys a last moment to get a few words in, but we've been at this for 2 hours. I'm tired. I was playing with the light because the red light was giving me a bit of a headache, but I just gave up. So I wanna call it a day. I think we put in a good shift. So if you like this, anything you've been hearing, you can send us support at feedthebadger.com/support. If you want to send a message anytime the show is over, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Again, I feel like he's not really understanding that this is not considered flaws in the intersectional framework. And his complaints mark him as someone, as a white cis het man who is entitled, who sees himself as entitled, thus the enemy, which could also mark him as a object of political violence to correct his belief that as an audience member for any property, he has the right to judge the writer's work, when in fact he is the one being judged and educated. Okay. All right. Any last words?
If you want to fix Finn, Rose, and Ray, I think the best thing would be to actually take them away from the legacy characters. Like, set the sequel trilogy so far in the future that Luke, Han, Leia, their children, and even their grandchildren are all dead, and give them their own adventures away from everything else.
And then just don't, like, heal from intersectionality and start to write outside of this framework that neuters storytelling. It's so dire. All right. With that, I want to thank you all for your kind attention. And I hope you have a lovely evening, afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This has been the Why Did You Write That podcast. And now I need to find the correct button.
Sadly, it was probably not red, which would make things easier.
They might be able to hear you.
I deliberately unmuted for that one. So yes, I was hoping they would. Felt the need to contribute.